It was supposed to be the perfect high school love story, a romance that felt like it could last forever. Two teenagers full of hope and dreams, their hearts intertwined, and a world of possibilities ahead. Their love was their world, and for a time, nothing could break that bond. The future felt wide open, and their relationship, once a fairy tale, seemed unshakable. But what happens when love, once pure and full of promise, begins to turn darker? When what was once a source of joy starts to become a cage, marked by control, jealousy, and possessiveness? What happens when the love you thought would last forever begins to suffocate, and the bond that once made you feel safe now feels more like a trap? What would you do if a relationship that once felt perfect started to make you feel trapped? Have you ever experienced that shift from love to control? Let us know in the comments below. Before the headlines, before the trial, before the world came to know their names, Nathaniel Fujita and Lauren Astley were just teenagers, young people caught in the complexity of their own lives, each living in their own world, shaped by their past, their upbringing, and the very different paths that would ultimately intersect in a way no one could have predicted. Lauren was the epitome of kindness and ambition. Raised in a stable, loving home, her world was one where family came first. She had dreams bigger than herself and a heart that embraced everyone she met. From a young age, Lauren knew what she wanted: success, love, and a life that would be as bright as her smile. Her family wasn't just a part of her life, they were her foundation, her unwavering support. Nathaniel's life, on the other hand, was defined by his athletic success and a different kind of ambition. As a star football player, he was often celebrated for his talent. His future was bright. He had a scholarship offer to play football in college, a ticket to a new world, one that many teenagers only dream of. But, as with many young athletes, there was more to Nathaniel's story than what met the eye. Beneath the trophies and the cheers, there were signs, subtle ones, that hinted at deeper emotional struggles that were never talked about, never addressed. But no one really knew the weight Nathaniel carried inside, the isolation he felt, the anger that simmered beneath the surface. These were things that no one could see, and as he navigated through his teenage years, a world that should have been full of hope and growth began to feel more and more like a trap. Even in their seemingly perfect worlds, what were the invisible struggles that Lauren and Nathaniel faced? What were the signs that something deeper was going on beneath the surface of their lives? It all started with a spark, one of those high school romances that feels like the beginning of forever. They were young, full of hope, and their connection seemed unbreakable. Lauren and Nathaniel, two teenagers whose worlds were colliding in a whirlwind of passion, seemed to have it all. A love story that could have been written in the stars. For nearly 2 years, their relationship seemed like a dream, the kind of relationship that everyone around them envied. They were inseparable. Lauren and Nathaniel were always together, at school, at football games, at dances. Their love was the kind of love you saw in movies, exciting, passionate, and filled with promise. But beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect lives, a storm was quietly building. While Paul and Keith appeared to be on the fast track to success, their financial situation told a very different story. The brothers' shared business had experienced unexpected setbacks. Their once profitable ventures were slipping into financial disarray, and the cracks in their empire were beginning to widen. Paul, in particular, was feeling the weight of his struggles. His lifestyle, once funded by prosperity, now seemed dangerously unsustainable. The debts were mounting, and the pressure was unbearable. It wasn't just the little fights anymore. It was something deeper, something darker. Nathaniel's jealousy seemed to know no bounds. He began to isolate Lauren from her friends, demanding her time, her attention, and her loyalty in ways that felt controlling. Lauren, on the other hand, tried to appease him, to calm him down, but every time she thought things were getting better, they would spiral again. She began to lose herself in the relationship, not realizing how much of her happiness was tied to his mood, his approval. Lauren wanted to help him. She could see he was struggling, withdrawing into himself. The boy she had fallen in love with, the one who had promised to be her protector, was slipping away. Nathaniel's emotional turmoil, which had always been buried beneath the surface, was now coming out in destructive ways. Lauren was no longer just a girlfriend. She was a lifeline for someone who seemed to be sinking. But in trying to save him, she was unknowingly losing herself. But Lauren was trapped in the cycle of their relationship. She loved him, but love, as she soon learned, wasn't enough to heal his pain or fix what was broken. What began as a high school romance full of promise and excitement was slowly becoming a prison, one where trust was eroded, control took hold, and happiness became a distant memory. How often do we ignore the warning signs in relationships, thinking that things will get better on their own? Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where you tried to help someone, but in doing so you lost yourself? What should Lauren have done differently? Lauren's 18th birthday should have been the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She was supposed to be looking forward to a future full of promise, independence, opportunity, and the excitement of becoming the woman she had always dreamed of. But instead, that day would mark the breaking point in a relationship that had already begun to unravel. But when Nathaniel arrived, the reality of the day couldn't have been further from the dream she had imagined. Instead of the romantic, thoughtful gesture she had been hoping for, Nathaniel showed up disheveled, high, and surrounded by friends who seemed more interested in the party than in celebrating Lauren. What should have been a moment of connection, of celebrating their love and her milestone, turned into a nightmare. This wasn't the boyfriend Lauren had fallen in love with. The sweet, caring Nathaniel had become someone else, a person she no longer recognized, someone whose actions were driven by selfishness and disregard. The boy who had once promised her a future together now seemed more interested in his own selfish desires than her happiness. And in that moment, everything Lauren had been holding on to began to crumble. After that night, something inside Lauren shifted. She realized she couldn't keep living in a relationship that was slowly suffocating her. She had spent so much of herself trying to fix what was broken in Nathaniel that she had lost sight of herself. She deserved more than the chaos, the emotional strain, the constant disappointment. So she made the hardest decision of her life. She ended it. She told Nathaniel she couldn't do it anymore. She had to walk away. Lauren's breakup with Nathaniel was a turning point, not just in their relationship, but in her life. It was a moment that would define her journey forward, away from the toxic grip of a controlling love, into the uncertain but hopeful future she had always dreamed of. But while Lauren was ready to move on, Nathaniel was far from ready to let go. For Nathaniel, the end of their relationship wasn't just a breakup, it was an invasion into his sense of control, a loss that he couldn't handle. His feelings of rejection and anger festered, and what should have been a peaceful end to a relationship became the beginning of something far darker. Wow. Do some relationships turn toxic after a breakup? What do you think Nathaniel's behavior in this moment tells us about the dangers of emotional dependence? Have you ever experienced a breakup that didn't go as expected? Share your thoughts in the comments below. While Lauren felt a sense of relief and newfound freedom after ending her relationship with Nathaniel, he spiraled into something darker. Instead of moving on, Nathaniel's obsession with her grew stronger, as did his need to control every aspect of her life. despite everything. Despite the breakup, despite her moving on, Nathaniel couldn't let go. His jealousy became overwhelming, consuming him. He couldn't handle the thought of Lauren being with anyone else, of her living a life without him. It wasn't just about love. It was about control, and the loss of it drove him into a dangerous obsession. Lauren, still caring and compassionate, tried to help Nathaniel cope with the breakup. She reached out, trying to ease his pain, offering him a lifeline, thinking that perhaps, as she always had, she could help him find peace. What she didn't know was just how dangerous this act of kindness would be. What Nathaniel needed wasn't closure. It was control. And Lauren, unknowingly, had just reopened a door she had meant to close forever. Lauren never imagined by trying to be kind she was walking straight into a trap. Nathaniel's obsession had morphed into something far more dangerous, and Lauren, ever the caring soul, had just given him the opening he needed. It was a pivotal moment in the unraveling of Nathaniel Fujita. While Lauren saw this meeting as a final attempt to help him, Nathaniel saw it as a way to reclaim what he felt was his, a love, a life, and a future he was no longer willing to let go of. What do you think causes someone to cross that line between love and obsession? Is it fear of rejection, insecurity, or something deeper? Have you ever seen someone go down a dangerous path after a breakup? July 3, 2011. What started as an ordinary evening soon turned into an endless nightmare for Lauren's family. A mother's worst fear is the moment when a loved one, especially a child, goes missing. And for Lauren's mother, that horrifying moment had arrived. Lauren's breakup with Nathaniel was a turning point, not just in their relationship, but in her life. It was a moment that would define her journey forward, away from the toxic grip of a controlling love, into the uncertain but hopeful future she had always dreamed of. But while Lauren was ready to move on, Nathaniel was far from ready to let go. As the hours dragged on, Lauren's mother refused to leave the beach. She paced the shore, calling her daughter's name into the wind, knowing with every passing moment that time was running out, and still no one had any answers. What began as a seemingly normal evening had now turned into a full-scale search. Lauren was missing, and the clock was ticking. Each moment brought more confusion, more despair. For Lauren's mother, the wait for answers felt like an eternity, but what no one knew was that this was only the beginning of a much darker journey. Lauren's disappearance would leave her family shattered. As the hours stretched into days, the search expanded, but so did the questions. What happened in those final moments? Was she already lost? Or was something far more sinister at play? What do you think happened to Lauren that night? Was it a random act, or was someone close to her responsible? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Let's uncover the truth together. The morning after Lauren's disappearance, the nightmare became all too real. What began as a frantic search turned into something far darker, a discovery that would shake not only the community but the entire nation. Lauren's body was found not far from the beach, in a marshland just outside of town. The cause of death was quickly confirmed as strangulation, with a bungee cord wrapped around her neck, an unsettling sign of the violence she endured. As the evidence piled up, the story of what happened that night began to take shape. It wasn't just a crime of passion, it was the culmination of a relationship gone horribly wrong. Nathaniel's obsession with Lauren had spiraled into violence. The question now was, why? Nathaniel's story would become a national one. From a promising athlete to a man consumed by rage and obsession, the transformation was as tragic as it was chilling. The question remained, how did it all go so wrong? What do you think drove Nathaniel to commit such a horrific act? Was it his obsession with Lauren, or was there something more sinister at play? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Let's try to understand what went wrong. The trial of Nathaniel Fujita became a chilling reminder of how jealousy and obsession can turn deadly. What started as a high school romance full of promise ended in tragedy. As the courtroom doors opened, the question on everyone's mind was, could this have been prevented? The trial would offer no easy answers, only more questions. In this courtroom, the true cost of obsession was laid bare. As each piece of evidence was presented, it was clear that what was once a young man's love had morphed into something darker, more dangerous. And as the jury listened, one can only wonder, how did Nathaniel go from an athlete with a promising future to a man facing a murder charge? Was it a single tragic moment of uncontrollable rage? Or was it a deeper psychological breakdown that led to this unforgivable act? What was once love became an unbearable weight for Lauren, a weight of fear, frustration, and ultimately, despair. Nathaniel's words weren't just requests, they were commands. His jealousy wasn't a sign of care, but of possession, and in that twisted form of love, Lauren became nothing more than a prize to be won or destroyed. Lauren had finally found a sense of independence. She had plans. Plans for college, plans to travel, plans to become the woman she was always meant to be. But Nathaniel's obsession trapped her in a cage of his making. No matter how far she tried to move away, he pulled her back closer, tighter, until she couldn't breathe. But how can you explain a momentary lapse of judgment that ends in death? How can you excuse a violent act fueled by obsession? The defense tried to paint Nathaniel as a broken young man, one who couldn't control his emotions. But what the jury had to decide was whether a momentary lapse could truly explain what had happened to Lauren. Nathaniel's family spoke of a young man who had been abandoned by the one person he thought he could trust. They spoke of a son who had never known how to deal with rejection. But this wasn't just about rejection. This was about control. And control, once lost, becomes a dangerous thing. The loss of Lauren was not just a loss to her family, but to the world. She was a bright young woman, destined for great things. But she never got the chance to live the life she dreamed of. Nathaniel took that, and in doing so, he took a piece of all of us. The prosecutor's words hung in the air, a reminder of the weight of this decision. This was about more than just one life. It was about the consequences of unchecked obsession. It was about what happens when someone believes they can control another human being, and the damage that belief can cause. But apologies cannot bring Lauren back. Words cannot undo the harm that has been done. Nathaniel's regret, if it was sincere, came too late. His actions had already sealed his fate, and the fate of a young woman with so much life left to live. As the trial progressed, Paul's defense crumbled under the weight of the evidence. With each passing day, the prosecution's case became more airtight, leaving less and less room for doubt. The financial motive, the calculated nature of the fire, and the chilling indifference in Paul's demeanor all pointed toward one conclusion: Paul Canero was the architect of this horrific crime. Do you think Nathaniel's actions were inevitable, given his obsession with Lauren, or could someone have stepped in to stop this tragedy before it happened? Do you believe the justice system truly served Lauren's memory? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss how we can learn from this devastating case. Finally, in the end, Nathaniel Fujita was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Lauren Astley's story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of toxic relationships and the importance of recognizing the signs of emotional abuse. While her death is an irreparable loss, her story continues to live on as a cautionary tale, a warning to anyone who might be in an unhealthy relationship or have loved ones who are. Teen dating violence can happen in the most unsuspecting ways, and often, it takes a tragic loss to make the world wake up to its dangers. But we all have a role to play in changing that narrative. It's crucial to understand that love should never come at the cost of control, jealousy, or fear. The toxic behaviors that plague Nathaniel and Lauren's relationship could have been prevented, but we need to be vigilant. We need to teach the next generation about healthy boundaries, self-worth, and the value of mutual respect in relationships. Thank you for watching and for taking the time to reflect on Lauren's story. If you found this video impactful, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that matter, and click the notification bell so you never miss an important update. Share this video to help raise awareness. Together, we can make a difference. If you or someone you know is experiencing dating violence, please reach out for help. Don't stay silent. Help is always available. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe and remember, every voice counts.